Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Sinusoid Pro Audio Couture. If you're looking for the best cables that you can buy, head on over to sinusoid.com. They make cables
and smiles, and they make this show possible, which is one of the biggest reasons to support them. They support this programming that you like here on 60 Cycle PBS. Every Saturday morning, we give you Stephen Ryan Street, where puppets hang out with Stephen Ryan and play awful guitars. Big thanks to Sinusoid Cables for making all that programming possible. And stay tuned later tonight for Lawrence Welk with electric guitars. Hey, this is Ryan.
And this is Steve, and you're listening to 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar buying, selling, trading, modding, fixing, breaking, reviewing, playing podcast.
That was very clean. I think that's the best one you've done in a while.
I feel like I dropped one out. I think
you switched the order of two.
What happens anytime,
this is boring. No one wants to hear this.
Most times I mess up, it's because I second guess myself.
Yeah. Remember a couple of years ago when I got everyone at NAMM to do the intro for us?
Oh my gosh. We had 40 of them.
Yeah, it was a full year's worth.
That was
crazy.
Great.
Yeah. But it was extra editing for me, so I don't miss it. I'll say that. And also, I feel like if I went and did it again, it'd be a lot of the same people.
There's
true.
Only
at
so
this
many
point,
people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could get a couple new people.
We could get all of the guitar nerds.
Yeah, I could get that. Would actually be great.
Yeah.
Okay. This is coming out after we went to NAMM, but I'm writing that down as a thing that maybe I want to do.
Hey Ryan.
Yeah.
I don't have anything new, but maybe you do.
I do have something kind of new. A while back, I did another Epiphone SL video, and I might even have a new one by now. And I commented in the video and on the Facebook group that maybe it would be my last SL video for a while. I was feeling a little burnt out on it. And I just got a comment from someone on YouTube that I felt like I wanted to read just because it tickled me so pink. And I'm usually pretty pink already on the YouTube channel. So this guy said, "Seriously, mate, this is epic. Love what you've done here with this plank of wood. It even sounds pretty decent too. This is probably a first in the history of modding where a guitar has gone up in value instead of down." I don't know if that's true. It's maybe gone up to being worth $120.
Yeah,
maybe. There isn't much more you can do though. Really, is there? I say rubber down to the knuckle. Let's see what she's hiding underneath that garish coat of turquoise, blue, green, aqua, whatever the F you call it.
Probably plywood.
Warts and all, let's have it. You are the Jesus of the guitar mod, and your guitars shall die for all our guitar sins.
Oh my god.
Take a black... It gets better. Take a Black & Decker to the bitch, I say. Strip her down and sand her off. Keep it classy, of course. Maybe a little tint or stain on her otherwise naked form. Just to help pronounce the grain a bit more. If there is any grain indeed under there, it's possible that there's not much grain there. You know you want to. I've had it in for this guitar since you took it out of the box. Immediate buyer's remorse.
Oh my god.
Since then you have just been metaphorically beating it like a redheaded stepchild. Sorry if this is a touchy subject for you. Make it good. Make it pay. Let's face it. You can't,
Make it pay.
You can't send it back now. You've totally cooked it. There is more mileage and entertainment yet in this guitar than any of us have ever dreamed of in our philosophies. You are the only one doing this. The guitar community needs you. Hell, someone will probably make a Hitler parody video of this soon.
What?
If they haven't already. In quotations. All those,
is that the where they changed the captions on the clip from down?
Here it is in quotations. All those who thought it was a good idea to spend $300 on modding an effing $100 guitar, step out of the room now. But mein Führer, pull it the F together, Ada. It was only a cheap Epiphone to start with. The journey has just begun. This is pretty much the most epic comment I've ever gotten on a YouTube video before.
It's a little dark.
It's a little dark, but it's so great. And it's the thing I commented back was, good pep talk, coach. But I totally feel like I owe it to him now to make at least 2 or 3 more videos of this dumb guitar that I'm so over with. But to be honest, the last video did, is sitting at like 14,000 views
What's
on
left
it.
for you to do with that?
I talked about, well, I do need to do a video because I did fix the nut a bit because the nut action was too high. I talked about taking I know someone's beating something upstairs. Taking the Bigsby Sorkin style bridge off, doweling the holes, and then putting in a real Tune-O-Matic style bridge to get full
would be interesting.
intonation controls. Because that, I've never done stuff like that before, and I think that's become the spirit of this guitar is me experimenting on things I've never done.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried to drill holes like that because I know I'll get them off center.
Well, I mean, as long as it's not too far off center, I think you're okay. You just need to, after you dowel it, you're going to have to measure, remeasure that position.
You'd think someone would make a kit that would allow you to transform the holes required for a stop tail bridge into a Tune-O-Matic just for this purpose. Like, what's the company that makes the plates for Bigsby's?
Vibramate.
Vibramate. You think they would make this? I'm going to talk to them at NAMM. I'm going to talk to them. I have an idea.
Are they usually at NAMM?
They were at Summer NAMM. I think they share a booth with a few other people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the episode. Let's make this one a quick one. Last time was like an hour 20. It was bad. First ad. You want to jump into it?
Yeah, this first ad was sent by Javier Herrera. He came to our 200th episode.
Yeah, he did.
And he's in the inner circle. This is a J Mascis thing. I'm trying to find it. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
J Mascis Squire with Master Bridge and Tremolo, Duncan Antiquities pickups. What you got?
I was gonna, you finish this and we'll do it in housekeeping.
All right. We got a lot of housekeeping because I forgot to do it last week. I know what you're thinking. Why would I pay $12.50 for a Squire?
Because you're stupid.
Answer. This one comes with the Mastery Bridge and Tremolo. It also has Seymour Duncan Antiquity pickups installed. I had the wiring harness replaced as well. When the pickup selector is in the middle position and you flip on the rhythm circuit, the pickups are put in series for a more humbucker-like sound. I'm trying to get an electric 12-string, so I'm selling this one. I might be willing to trade for a Reverend 12-string. I had the guys at Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar do the work. This isn't my guitar, but you can hear another J Mascis with Mastery Bridge and Duncan Antiquities that they did here. And there's a link. So this was done at
Mike and Mike's.
Mike and Mike's, but this is being sold out of Houston. Is it Mike and Mike's in like Seattle?
Yeah, but you can ship stuff around, Steve. Did you know about that? You know that you can put a guitar in a box and send it somewhere else?
What is shipping?
Free ship?
What is shipping, Precious?
So I wonder if this reflects what he paid to have the work done and he's trying to break even, or if he's trying to cut a profit, because this is pretty dang steep.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the more pricier versions of the Squire Jazzmaster, the J Mascis.
But even
it's still
the J Mascis was like $400.
Yeah, it's
tops.
still like super
I think it was
affordable.
less than that.
This guy's like trying to triple down on this.
Also, he spelled Squire wrong several times.
And Mastery. He spelled it Master Bridge in the title. So Squire with Master Bridge and Tremolo.
Say it right.
I get flack on that so much.
Looks like the J Mascis was $450 brand new.
So used. You know, they have good resale.
So here's
I bet you get $400 for a good condition.
That actually gives me more fuel to the fire.
Throw it on the fire, man.
$450. What's a Mastery? $300?
Yeah, but he also did the tremolo. It's not just the.
So it's two parts. So what's that, like $500?
Yeah.
So that puts us at $950.
And then he paid for a custom wiring.
The pickups.
And the pickups.
Antiquities. Yeah, I mean, I guess like everything.
He's trying to break even on this.
Everything is, if you're trying to break even.
But like we've said before, anytime you do an upgrade, you have to subtract the value of the replaced hardware.
Yeah, and half these upgrades are really side grades.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Everything on here is premium. I mean,
and honestly,
I'm not going to knock Mastery, and I'm not going to knock Seymour Duncan. But the reality is there's at least somewhat of a side grade here. You know, this isn't just.
Well, I think the original dollar value of the guitar negates all these upgrades.
Well, even if this was like a Fender American, a Fender American Jazzmaster,
I suppose
and
someone
you put all
could,
these upgrades on it, it doesn't make a $1,400 guitar
I guess
suddenly a $2,000
someone
guitar.
could look at this the same way I look at my vintage modified Jazzmaster, in that I could sell the Jazzmaster and put stock hardware back on it and still have gotten a mastery for way cheaper. Like, someone could look at this and be like, oh, I'll just harvest those antiquities and the mastery stuff and slap in, a Squire kit that I got off of eBay for $50.
Right, but then you're going to
have that hardware.
But then you're going to sell it for $300, and all of that hardware put together isn't going to be worth
That's true.
$900.
No, he's shooting way too high. Absolutely. Like, a Squire, there's got to be something really ridiculous going on for a Squire to actually be worth this amount of money, and he's not hitting it. He's just not hitting it. Like, you've got to like embed diamonds into it, or like it's got to be full of cocaine or something like that, Maybe it is full of cocaine. Maybe this is a will not sell price because he's using it to smuggle drugs across the country through reverb. And the thing I was going to say earlier is that the J Mascis Squire is already such a great guitar stock. You really don't need these mods. And if you're spending that amount of money to get these mods, you're starting to get in the neighborhood where you should really just be hiring a guitar builder to make you exactly what you want.
Right.
Like, this guy should have thrown $500 more into the pot and talked to even, like a parts builder that uses MJT parts or something like that.
Sure.
And it would have gotten him exactly where he wanted to be. And he would have had better resale value on it too, because it's not a Squire. I'm honestly surprised.
This is just rough.
I'm honestly surprised he didn't rebadge the headstock too, because that's more of what you would expect out of this sort of thing.
I kind of wish we had the original link so we could see if it sold.
I bet I could find it on Reverb.
I'm literally doing that right now.
Okay, you do it right now then.
So I don't know if we have anything left to say on this, or if you just nope, still $1,250 plus shipping.
Yeah, no one's going to buy that. Maybe this is one of those things that we've talked about before, where it's like the wife wants him to sell it before he buys another thing.
Yeah.
It's like, honey, I listed it and no one's buying it. I don't know what's going on. And it's just like his, I hope it doesn't sell price.
Yeah. I think there's a really good chance that that's what's going on here.
It's totally possible.
At least a moderate chance where maybe
he's even the picture has the empty spot next to it where he wants his 12 string to go.
Oh my gosh! Whether it's a spouse or someone else, like maybe it's himself. I mean,
him just fooling himself.
Have you ever sold a piece of or have you ever listed a piece of gear thinking like, I'm going to list this at a price that I don't really like?
No, because every time I cross that barrier of selling, it's like, yeah, I want to sell it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm honest with myself.
You've never been on the fence with something and been like, well, if I can get this much.
It's almost like once I list it, that piece of gear is dead to me. It's already sold in my mind.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's my mentality towards it anyways. Let's move on to the topic.
Yeah,
which spins into this.
This is my topic. This is kind of in the wake of the Fathom from Walrus Audio. This is a thing I was thinking about, and I wanted to ask you, since you're a little more in touch with, how you
link this to the Fathom.
Maybe not with trends, but just with this effect type in general. It's 2018. Is the reverb game over? What's left?
Are we talking? Wait, I thought we were talking about reverb.com, not reverb pedals.
No, I was talking about reverb pedals.
Really?
Yeah, I messaged you about this a week ago.
Oh, I totally misinterpreted.
Because I know there's still a gap for spring and drip.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's really a market there.
Yeah, it's a very limited market. And I feel like that market needed to be hit 2 years ago because all the indie bands were using reverb units and using that sound in studio to get various sounds. I get where you're going with this. I really thought we were going to talk about reverb.com.
Oh my god. Yes, the Fathom is going to kill reverb.com.
I didn't know we didn't talk about the Fathom in the pre-up here.
I thought
we were talking about the like that the flip game is dying off.
No, I mean the flip game is definitely slowed down because I have not found a deal on Craigslist in forever.
I know, right? And I think that's really the we're not talking about this. You have a totally different topic in mind.
No. Okay, so
let's talk about reverb pedals in general.
To flesh this out a little better, for a while,
I'm confused. I was confused on the show. This is a first. I've never been confused like this before.
For a while, the Strymon Big Sky or the smaller version, the Blue Sky, have been kind of the go-to. And then you have reverbs from different companies that do different things. MXR put out a reverb not too long ago that was kind of that at least some people thought was a bit of an industry disruptor.
Because it just did a lot.
But when I saw the Fathom, given that the Fathom was so similar conceptually to the ARP 87,
right,
which I thought was fantastic,
yeah,
in its implementation, as soon as I saw the Fathom and what was going on, I thought, reverb's done. Like, what's left?
What else can be done?
What can be done? And of course,
I think there's always. I mean, as a reverb connoisseur,
right, and that's why I wanted to get your take on this.
Yeah. It's the same as overdrives and fuzzes. I mean, how many tube screamers and big muffs do we need?
Sure.
Every company's going to come out with one. But reverbs, to my understanding, are a bit more complicated to build because it's not just throwing on clipping diodes to make a crunchy sound.
I mean, at the simplest, you're building something based on the belt and brick, which I don't know.
Not every reverb pedal does that.
No, and some are based. I would say the majority of reverbs on the market right now are either built on the belt and brick or they're built on an FV1 spin chip.
I don't even know what that is. So
it's just
more than I do.
It's DSP.
Okay.
So the belt and brick is what. I don't know where I was going with that.
Right.
I haven't looked into it for sure, of those two things.
People are saying that there's a belt and brick in the Big Ear L, which I'm a big fan of the sound of that pedal, and in the JHS Spring Tank, and which I totally get. They both have that kind of like bouncy reverb trail, like pre-delay sort of thing going on. But I'll say, like I was saying, it's the same as overdrives and fuzzes. Yeah, reverbs do kind of the same thing, but even though if they do have this component, even though the L and the Spring Tank have that same thing going on, they have completely different tonal characteristics.
Right.
It's not just you can't think of reverb as just it's a mechanically simple effect that is going to sound the same if it's got the same parameters. Like they have different tonalities, they have different ways they respond.
Right.
Each builder kind of makes them a little bit different. Like the Spring Tank is a little bit more transparent. It's a little drier. It's not as high character. Where the L is this really kind of like dark, high character, like more vintage sounding kind of reverb. Like there's a big character difference. And then you bring in the Fathom, and that's like the way I use it is it's like an ambience machine. It's just dark and moody, and it doesn't like pre-delay or drip at all, really. It has pre-delay setting, but it's interesting because there's a delay to when the reverb starts, but it like sweeps into that delay. Like you do your pluck, and it goes, and then the reverb trail starts. Like it's like feels like it's sucking air out of the room. It's really interesting. So I'd say it's like, there's a lot of pedals out there with a wide variety of feature sets for reverb. Yeah, but I don't think reverb is done at all as an effect. I think there's a lot to be done, especially in the DSP stuff that's coming out now. I think when someone cracks how to make a realistic or at least functional drip sound, and it becomes more common knowledge how to do that, I think we're going to see builders experiment with that a lot more.
Given that I feel like nobody's really gone after that, I wonder if there's a technology limitation there.
I think it's just really hard.
You don't think it? You think the technology can do it?
Yeah. Okay. Boss has done it with the FRV1. There's something to be desired in parts of that. It kind of gives you a filtering sound, and if you're really, really listening to it, you realize that it's a triggered effect. Right. It's not like a real response to your playing. Well, it's a response to your playing, but it's like when you use a real Fender tank, like the drip is in key with what you're playing. Where with the FRV1, it's not in key with what you're playing.
Really?
But you still get that drip sound, which is enough. Like, it's impressive. I'm really, because TC Electronic is adding a reverb pedal called the Drip to their smorgasbord line, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. I was listening to their launch demo.
Have you talked to them already?
I have.
Cool.
I have. It's not, they don't have production models for it yet.
You think I would know this given that I see all the emails?
I know, right? That doesn't mean you read them all.
I don't.
In the production, in the launch video for it, it does sound like there's a drip in there, like an honest goodness drip. So I'm wondering what it's actually going to be like. They didn't play with it the way I would have liked them to play to show off that drip,
right?
But it doesn't sound like pre-delay. It sounds like a, I can't believe I did that first try.
I don't even know how to do that.
You like flick your cheek and
yeah,
like,
I know there's like a flicking thing going on, Ryan. You just flick the thing and then everybody's happy or whatever.
But yeah, I think that's wraps it up. I think there's totally more you can do. But I think everything you can do programming wise, as far as like parameters you control, has been done.
Right.
But you could say the same thing for fuzz and overdrive and delay and everything else. Like, is delay done? Like, you could have said that delay was done with the DL4, But there's been tons of stuff people have done with delay since then.
Yeah, I think there were. I mean, the DL4 had some shortcomings.
That's going to bleed into our next topic.
But I understand what you're saying. Like, anytime somebody says, "Oh, this is the killer," there's always another killer.
Right.
There's always something else.
It's like a Swiss Army knife analogy.
Yeah.
You get a Swiss Army knife and you're like, this is a tool killer. Like, I don't need any other tools. I've got all these tools at my disposal. I never need to buy a saw. I never need to buy a knife. I never need to buy scissors ever again. I've just got them all now. And then you realize I really need a specialized knife. I need better scissors. I need this and that. You can get these pedals that are packed full of features, but then you realize I'm really only using 2 of these settings, and I'd like a pedal that expands on that sound and just focuses on that sound. And I think that's something that we could get. I would love a full-featured, like, drip modeling reverb pedal that gives me full control over the drip beyond what a Fender tank offers. Because a Fender tank just has 3 knobs.
Well, and a Fender tank also weighs, what, like 20, 30 pounds?
Yeah, it just takes up a ton of space, too. But I'd love to have, like, something with, like, 6 knobs on it where I can control maybe, like, the mix of the drip against the mix of the trail and, the tone of the drip and the tone of the trail. Things like that. Like, get really specific with it and build my own sound out of it. Steve is having a hiccup attack over here.
Yeah, I was about to say I have bad news.
What's your bad news?
I have the hiccups. The hiccups.
Do we need to pause for a second so you can catch up?
No, let's fight through it.
Okay. This is something that has popped up recently. It's not an ad found on like the used market, but people have been posting about it, and I've been seeing it around the interwebs.
Mark Swartz posted this. He says, "Well, I'm not going to say what he says, but Jackson Ampworks is now selling wow.
You want to take a break?
Maybe.
Let's take a break. All right, we're back. Steve had to go run a lap and use the bathroom and eat a bunch of pickles. He did all the tricks in the book to get rid of hiccups, and we finally conquered the beast.
I think I can do this.
We're going to make it to the end of the episode, guys. All right, so this was posted to the Facebook group. It's basically the ad that came out for these DIY cabinet kits you can buy from Jackson Audio. What do you think about this, Steve?
I don't like this triangle.
You don't like the triangle? That's
No.
like the shape of their cab, though.
I know.
That's their thing. There's a little triangle dipped down in front of the speaker.
So I can appreciate that that it's ported.
It's got the front ports on the sides.
$300. I don't know. Do you think that's a good price?
I think you can get a finished cab for that price.
But will it be
If not
ported?
better. No, it probably won't be ported. You might be able to find a local woodworker who will do something similar. But the comment that I liked on this that Tavo made from Nocturne Braid Pedals was like, wrapping cabinets with cloth is like the worst thing you could do to yourself. Like the glue just sticks to everything. It doesn't stick to anything but your hands and your face, and it just makes you hate life.
So you think really like selling this for $300, like whatever the remainder amount on that is what the cost of doing the finishing work on this would be?
I would rather pay someone $600 to build something similar than do the kit and then like really fudge up the finishing on it, you know, like wrapping it in Tolex and everything. Like maybe it'd be fine to do the kit as like a woodworking thing and leave it raw and like just put a light stain on it instead of wrapping it in fabric like they usually do. Another thing I was thinking about, Steve is still fighting the hiccups over here. Are you going to make it?
Yep.
I think this is the second time you've had bad hiccups on the show.
I'm working on it.
Oh, man.
I'm pushing my microphone really far away from me anytime I'm not talking.
Another thing I was thinking about is if a bunch of people buy these and they do an okay job of doing the wrap on them, are they then later going to try to sell them on the used market as just a regular Jackson cab?
Even if they don't, if you go in as a Jackson clone, what's your price point?
You're asking me what I would pay for a Jackson clone?
Well, not
or what I would sell a Jackson clone for?
Not you. I'm just saying, you know, in general, how, say from a percentage perspective, how high can you go?
I'm not following you. What are you asking? This episode is completely off the rails right now.
I'm saying they're selling a kit.
Right.
And in the case of woodworking, you're selling dimensions. So, say Cassidy buys one of these.
Oh, and then he uses it as a template.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, technically, you could do that with anything, though. You could go buy a Marshall cab and take the Tolex off and measure the whole thing.
Right, but if it's a PCB, you still have to figure out how to manufacture those PCBs. This is the worst because I'm here.
Right. You're not drunk or anything. You're like,
I just have this gnarly case of hiccups.
Well, it's just a cab. It's not an amp. It's not an amp kit. It's just a cab. So there's no PCB.
Yeah. Maybe at the most there's a little bit of work around where the hookups are.
Right. But I think the idea. I think the idea here is that you get a box full of all the wood parts and then you glue them together. Like it doesn't come as a put together cab like that. It's a kit.
Sure. But let me ask this question.
It's like building a birdhouse.
Based on the pictures, is Tolex worth $400, $500?
Because that's what they charge for a finished cab.
So a
$500 more?
1x12 dual ported cab on JacksonAmpworks.com is $800.
Right.
This is $300. So that's what I want to get at is everything aside from a construction perspective. If you were again like a jeez, I can't breathe. If you were Cassidy,
yes,
who's built for us,
yeah,
I can probably do that.com. Not really.
Right. He doesn't have a website yet.
No,
Look him up
doesn't.
on Instagram. I can probably do that.
You know, if basically for him, this would be a $300 instruction template, and then everything else maybe he would do raw, or he would do just completed raw, or with some basic finishing. Jackson is basically saying we will sell you our kit with all of the wood for $300 for what we sell with Tolex, which Tolex isn't expensive, but
Do their expensive cabs come loaded with a speaker?
Oh, speaker! I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Do their DIYs? It's just a cabinet.
I don't have any information on it. There's not a speaker in the picture.
So maybe that's the difference too, because but
then you could load any speaker you want in there. You might already have a speaker.
but speakers, if you want something decent, it's going to cost you at least $150.
Yeah.
That is a good point, and that basically defeats my argument.
I look at this, and this is not a simple cab to wrap in Tolex.
No, it's not
complicated.
But if you're bored or you're really good.
But if you're really good at wrapping Tolex, you're probably already good at making cabs. And you can make your own cab.
That's true. I'm just looking from a competition standpoint.
I think the real angle here is that you could buy this cab and have a ported cab and not put Tolex on it. Maybe do a light stain or like a light just like clear coat on it, and have a ported cab that gives you the sound that you're looking for at a much lower price.
Yeah, they're definitely looking at cab only, because I'm looking at, you have an unloaded option on their website, no additional cost. WGS ET65 for an additional $79.
That's a speaker?
Yeah. Or an Al Nickel Gold for $250.
Right.
Which those are all street prices.
Yeah. So you could buy them yourself and just put whatever you want in there.
Yeah. If you've got some janky ass Fender speaker sitting around.
Right. Or a pair of like...
You could do it for $30.
Or a pair of old crate speakers you got sitting over there. In the old crate. That's front ported, by the way. It's a front ported speaker cab.
You're welcome.
I would probably like this speaker cab. I've been a fan of this front ported crate cab that we have here for a while.
Do you still use it?
And when I have Dinosaur Ghost shows, I do.
Oh, this should have been my what's new. I've run into Ariel and Mitch twice in the last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Together or separately?
Together.
Whoa. My band members are hanging out without me.
So a week and a half ago, I see those two dudes at El Zarape.
Oh, okay. Mitch lives like across the street from there.
Okay. Where does Ariel live?
I forget where he is. I think he's up kind of like by Kettner.
Okay. So I run into both those dudes at El Zarape because on Wednesdays, Melissa and I drop the kids off at church, and then we just go out to dinner. That's our routine now. And a lot of times dinner is El Zarape. So we see them there. On our way out, I walk in and I go, oh, these two schmucks. And Ariel just turns to me and goes, oh, this schmuck.
That sounds about right.
So 3-4 days later, I take the family out to...
This story is curing your hiccups, Steve. Roll with it.
I know. I take the kids out to Torrey Pines to do a little hiking. And we get down, and I take my older kid out to Flat Rock at Torrey Pines.
Uh-huh.
And she's out there
this has quickly turned into a geography podcast.
Minutes. I know. That's why I'm running with it, because everyone loves geography.
Uh-huh.
And she's done. So I walk back, and we're getting ready to walk back to our car. And who do I see? Ariel, Mitch, and some girl.
Probably Mitch's girlfriend or Ariel's girlfriend.
I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I walk up and I'm like, you two guys again? Really? Like, really?
That's funny.
Really?
Why are you following me?
Really?
I've
seen those two guys more frequently in the last week and a half than you probably have in like the last 6 months.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. We were supposed to play a show and it like never got fully scheduled, so that didn't happen. And then we had another show scheduled, and the original band booking it dropped out. And then Davey, our drummer, was like, I'm leaving town that day now. Here's a geography little side tangent. I got in an argument with someone, I think in a gear-related group, over Europe being or not being a continent. What do you say? Is Europe a continent?
I hate you. So you're going off the tectonic plates argument.
Right.
Which is that Eurasia, like Europe and Asia, are one tectonic plate. But in the Western Hemisphere, North America, Central America, and South America are 3 different tectonic
There's
plates.
a small tectonic plate between the two.
Yeah. And then Australasia, which is Australia and
Right.
Oceania and some other outlying
I look at it
regions.
from the geological standpoint.
Yeah, basically, you're a pedantic dick. Because I saw that and I was like, Jesus Christ, Ryan, you're on your own. Because I cannot deal with this.
So you
right
think
now.
Europe is a continent in what sense? In like a socio-economic sense?
So I'm fine with thinking about Europe
in like a traditional sense?
In a traditional or in a political sense. I'm 100% fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with whatever current. If the United States buys Mexico, then yeah, welcome to North America, Mexico.
But you don't want to call Mexico North America.
Actually, I said that prematurely because Mexico is North America.
Yeah.
Central America doesn't start until you hit like Panama.
Well, that little tiny tectonic plate in the middle, it's just like a strip of like Panama, and then it goes into the Caribbean. Like it's very small.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like Panama, and maybe at most it's like what, El Salvador or Costa Rica or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Like it's not much.
And they have volcanoes down there.
Oh yeah,
which is,
yeah.
You know,
well, and that's
very telling.
That's the whole thing for us as citizens of the United States of America. That's what makes tectonic plates interesting. Maybe is the word.
Sure.
Is that you're like what volcano is there in Scotland?
Right.
What volcano?
Well, yeah, they have volcanoes up in like Iceland and stuff like that.
Yeah, once you get really far, like further north.
Yeah.
But like, you know what volcano is? Like, we have a volcano in our state.
You pronounce it weird.
Volcano? Volcano?
I say volcano.
I'm dude.
We've gone squarely into geography podcasting.
I posted an Instagram tonight of what's been going on, so people will understand.
Oh man.
But Mount Whitney's a volcano.
Yeah.
Like every large mountain in our state is a volcano.
No.
Every large mountain.
No.
Shasta.
Wait, Mount Whitney's not actually a volcano.
Is it not?
No, now that I think about it.
I don't know.
No, it's not.
All right, I lied.
You have the whole Sierra Nevada mountain range, which is just plates pushing together. They're not. There's volcanoes along that, but the big mountains are not volcanoes.
All right, you've got your fancy cabin on the Sierra Nevada. so
I've spent a lot of time in that area.
I will give this one to you.
Okay. There are volcanoes around there, but they're very distinct when you see them. They're big red cones.
I'll say broadly, like we live on the west side or on the east side of the Pacific Rim. So volcanoes is a thing that we do. We're on the east side.
Oh yeah. We know
okay.
about volcanoes.
Yeah,
around
yeah.
here. It's dinner table conversation.
So tectonic plates.
Do we want to try to tackle this ad more, or are we done with it?
What
the Jackson cab ad?
I think we're done.
This was so sloppy.
No,
Steve had a medical emergency of hiccups in the middle of this. Then we went into geography podcasting. Let's see if we can save this show. What do you say, Steve?
Yeah, landmark pedals.
Who asked this question even?
Joe Brand, probably.
No.
Should have been. Joe.
Steve.
How do you feel after you've defeated / lost to me?
We don't know if that happened. We recorded this episode.
That's
in the future.
why I chose both options.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, I got to get back to the post to see who asked this.
Oh,
while
we're doing this.
Screw it. I can't remember.
In 206, I forgot to do housekeeping.
Oh yeah, housekeeping. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I want to thank Dave Lee, who you confused the crap out of me.
Yeah, I was like, wait, why is our friend David Lee joining our group?
Yeah, it turns out there's another Dave Lee who lives in the UK. So I hope you stay in the group more than 2 months because shipping is going to be a pain in my ass. But no, for real, welcome. Thank you for supporting us through our inner circle level through Patreon.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, which how I figured out because I knew that the David Lee that we know would not be listening to Guitar Nerds. So welcome to the group. And our other supporter at the $1 level is Fatfoot Effects. I actually still don't know the name of the guy who works for them because on the signatures it just says Digger. And Digger is a really badass name.
It is.
But it also just seems like something you would assign your search engine optimization to be called is Digger.
Right.
So Fatfoot Effects, I think they've sponsored us before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah, they do the Thallium 81, which is they did sponsor which is us. A hard clipping distortion overdrive pedal. Check them out, fatfooteffects.com. So he is supporting us at the $1 level. And to our listeners, we've said before, like $1 sounds like nothing. But if everyone who listened to this subscribed with $1, at least Ryan could retire.
Not retire, but it was like, there's a lot we could do with that kind of money.
$1 is great, and we've always said this.
I'd say that if everyone who listened to us subscribed at the $1 level, we would have our own studio and we wouldn't be recording in my garage. I'd get us a studio somewhere like in a business park, and we'd have like a permanent like video stage, and we'd have like a permanent podcasting place.
I would say that if everyone who listened to this show subscribed at the $1 level,
pledged at the $1 level,
I would have to ask myself and everyone else a question, and that question would be, now, who's hot? Who's not? Tell me who rock, who sell out in the stores. Tell me who flopped, who copped the blue drop, who jewels got robbed, who's mostly Goldie down. To the tube sock, same old pimp. Mace, you ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on a blimp. Guarantee 1 million sales pulling all the love.
Are we still doing a guitar podcast?
This is Mo Money Problems by Notorious B.I.G.
Okay.
Because if every person who listened to this episode pledged $1 a month, we would have Mo Money, Mo Problems.
I think you should have skipped to the chorus or something.
I'm coming up.
Okay. Jeez, dude. This episode's off the rails.
Love it.
Speaking of giving us money, I think now's a good time to officially announce that if there's any left, the 50/50 is open for sale again.
Yeah.
We got a big box of them on the day that we recorded this episode. First dibs was open to the inner circle, and if there are any left, we'll let you guys know in the Facebook group today.
If you want one, please hit us up, 60cyclehumpcast@gmail.com. I look at every single email personally. If you send us a Facebook message or an Instagram message, like you want to slip into my DMs, I get it, but I don't really look at that.
It's hard to check Facebook direct messages.
It kind of is. It's
kind of tricky, and they get away from us pretty quick. So email is the way to go.
Email is the way to go because, again, I almost with 100% certainty will see it unless Ryan screws it up.
Yeah, and it's easy to screw it up. All right, let's get into the rest of this episode. Steve needs to get out of here. He's wrecked right now.
This next topic was sent to us by a person.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I don't know where I got this topic from.
Really?
Yeah.
I was relying on you, bro.
I was cruising around in our topic post, and I couldn't find it in there. But anyway, someone asked...
Short version is, somebody asked that the DL40... Actually, what website was it?
It was on that post about the DL40. There was an article that came out about it. The DL4. Oh my gosh. He's showing me the picture of all of his drinking leavings.
Dude, Joel Corte approves.
So there was an article that came out recently about the DL4, not DL40. By Line 6 being like the landmark pedal of its decade. And so someone asked, what are the landmark pedals of all the decades?
Sure.
I mean, we got to go back to the 60s because that's where fuzz starts, right? and then we can work our way forward into now,
This is
or
a,
we could cover the future.
this, this is a historical problem.
Okay.
I wasn't alive in the 60s.
No, but like there were so few pedals in the 60s that we can easily say that like the Maestro fuzz tone was like a landmark pedal.
Okay,
It was
that's
like
fair.
it brought fuzz into the market. It brought that sound into pop culture.
So the issue is that this was sent by Michael Weekend.
Oh, you did find it.
Yeah, he says landmark pedals by decade. This was actually a good write-up on the DL4 by Pitchfork. So this is how expansive of a topic this is.
Yeah, Pitchfork wrote about it.
Pitchfork actually wrote about it, talking about it. Said the headline is the Line 6 DL4 is quietly the most important guitar pedal of the last 20 years. I do not disagree with them because without the DL4, I don't think you necessarily have the
Oh gosh, how's this going to relate to Jimmy Eat World?
it is the emo / post hardcore revolution of the late 90s / late 2000s.
Sure.
Because whatever you want to say about the creepers that are in brand new, or the guys that that everyone loves right now in Manchester Orchestra, that was like a lot of alt and what eventually became post rock, born out of the late 90s and early 2000s. That was all made capable by the Line 6 DL4.
Yeah, there was a time where like you couldn't go to a show without seeing these on stage for every show. Like everyone was using them. They're just really fantastic live tools. Like there's just a lot of cool things you could do with them live.
In this article, they name Radiohead, Andrew Bird, Deer Hunter, Bill Frisell, I don't know, of the band Noveler, and Battles. All of these different bands that did DL4. You know who else might have a DL4, if I'm remembering correctly, is Reggie Watts.
Oh, he absolutely does.
Yeah.
Like you can see him using it all the time.
Definitely the DL4 is a generational pedal.
I have seen like people using it just for like its loop features.
Right.
In like really tiny, small indie shows where I've just been like, I can't believe they're using it for that. That's like so crazy that it makes that sound.
The only reason I bought a DD5, which I actually, for what it's worth, guys, look on Reverb. Maybe you might find my store. I will be selling my DD5 this year.
Oh wow,
which is really scary, with a tap tempo that has a barefoot button on it.
There you go.
But the only reason I bought a DD5 is because the bands that I were into were using DD5s before they bought DL4s.
Right. Oh, the big problem with the DL4 is that it's so huge. Like
Sure.
it's not friendly to modern pedal
But
boards.
in the age of the big sky and the timeline, is it really that big?
It really isn't. It's also just like if you use it for its loop features, it's like it's got to be a certain size no matter what.
Sure.
What was I going to say?
I don't know.
Also, like in that time when it really came into its own, pedal boards weren't that big of a deal. You would see the DL4 next to the amp foot switch and maybe like a tuner and one other pedal.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of were their own pedal board in a lot of ways, and people used them to work with their amps. Man, I thought I had a direction to go with this, but now I can't remember.
I don't know.
We were Slop City this episode.
So this is interesting because I'm looking at the Pitchfork article. George Trips from Way Huge was actually brought into Line 6 to do the DM4, the FM4, the MM4, and the DL4.
That's crazy.
So, like, literally, they brought him in just to do their entire multi-effects line in the mid or late 90s, early 2000s. Because all of those came out at the same time, right around, 2003, 2004?
Somewhere in there. And none of those other multi-effects ones, like the modulation and the distortion and whatever, did as well as the DL4.
I've seen the modulation one come up as like pretty decent value, but the DL4 was definitely a quick emerger as the flagship.
Oh, now I
pedal
remember what I was
on
going
that
to
line.
say. I've been thinking for a long time of putting together a pedal board that's all just big pedals. And it's got me thinking that I'd get a DL4 just for that because I have that big Dan Electro spring reverb, and then put a delay after that, and then I need to get a really big fuzz and like a really big overdrive, and a tiny little tuner.
Oh my gosh! All right, so
that's on my mind.
So
right
if
now.
we think by decade,
I think 60s are
90s,
easy. 60s are
You
easy.
think Maestro fuzz?
Maestro fuzz, and then in the 70s things get more
Is
complicated.
70s the big muff by default?
70s you got Big Muff. A fuzz face has been invented by then, so maybe you could even count the fuzz face in the 60s.
Okay.
Because that's like the Hendrix effect basically, and but I think that just the origination of the fuzz in the 60s is big enough to say just Maestro or fuzz in general. Like that was the effect. And then into the 70s things really explode. Then you start getting all like the modulations, envelope filters, all sorts of stuff like that. Delay pedals weren't a thing yet.
No, not really.
Time-based pedals weren't a thing, but you had phasers, you had wah, you had more variations of the fuzz, things like that. But if we had to pick one pedal to really represent the 70s, what do you think it would be? I'm going to say wah. I'm going to say wah, is the 70s pedal of my choice. What would you choose?
I think that's fair. Something like wah or like an envelope filter.
I think wah came out of the 60s too. It's not about when it comes out of. It's about if it defined the sound of that decade. Let's say that.
I think the 70s are kind of like what's going on right now, where you listen to music and you're like, what is happening?
Yeah. This episode, I can't believe how bad this episode is. Oh, the 70s are like now, where you're just like, what is happening? Steve, what are you talking about?
No. I mean,
there was a lot going on in the 70s. Like you couldn't, it'd be really hard to boil the 70s down to one effect. Where I could look at the 80s and be like rack mounted digital delay and chorus.
right.
Like Dimension C all day long.
I agree.
But like 70s is like, you could almost make a case that like treble booster is the defining effect of the 70s.
The Range Master?
Because
it's all
about just hitting amps as hard as you can.
That's fair. And you think about like that sound, I think there was a lot of amp sound. It kind of depends on what side of the 70s you're thinking of.
Totally.
And what I'm saying with what
I was saying wah because I was thinking funk, but then you think about the rock landscape, and that didn't have a lot of wah in it.
Well, that's the problem is as far as pedals go, like there's a very broad landscape.
Yeah.
For the 80s, I want to say the TC 2290, which was the effect rack unit, the delay that the Edge used.
Okay.
That's what I'm leaning towards.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm just going to say Dimension C as my answer for the 80s. Like just that perfect like glassy chorus tone.
I mean, I guess.
It was all for everything in the 80s. And then
it definitely was. I mean, this was years ago, and I know I've talked about this before, but I got one of those Ibanez CS, I think it was the CS9.
Okay.
One of their compact stereo. It was a stereo chorus, and that thing, every time I plugged it in, I was like, I should be playing Police riffs.
Yeah.
Nothing else, just the Police.
Yeah, totally.
No other bands or sounds, just the Police. Very 80s.
Yeah.
What about the 90s?
90s, any distortion box. Literally any distortion box is the sound of the 90s. A DS1, during that time they were calling muffs distortions. Like, it's not a fuzz, it's a distortion, guys. It's a distortion, we swear. But muffs were a big sound of the 90s, being used in a distortion sort of way. Anything in that kind of range was a big deal in the 90s. Like any box that could get you just clipped into a hard square wave was the sound. There wasn't a lot going on otherwise. Like it was just all about getting like a hard grind on a radio song that was kind of grungy but poppy enough for everyone to enjoy it.
Speaking of kind of poppy, or kind of grungy but poppy enough that anyone could enjoy it. I listened to a Bush album this week.
You listened to a Bush album.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Whole thing.
The whole
Which
thing.
one?
I don't remember the name of the album, but it was one of their later ones. It was the one that had The Chemicals Between Us
Oh, okay.
and Letting the Cable Sleep.
Yeah.
And I listened to it because Letting the Cable Sleep is one of my all-time favorite songs.
Interesting.
And The Chemicals Between Us is a fun song, I think. Mm-hmm. Nothing else on that album is worth listening to.
Nope. I forget the name of that album, but the previous one was the one that has like Glycerine and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. The one before that was
that's a hit machine. That album has a bunch of hits on it.
Yeah, but in my
Which
head,
are all really dumb if you go back and listen to them.
in my head, I really wanted to hear The Chemicals Between, or no, I wanted to hear Letting the Cable Sleep. I really love that song. I think as far as slow, ballady rock songs go from the 90s, that is at the top of my list. But when that album started, until I hit The Chemicals Between Us, I was like, what is going on? Like, this is just, it's not even like good post grunge.
Right.
Like, I'd rather listen to Creed.
Oh gosh, that's
It was
worse.
awful.
Yeah.
It was just like nonsense.
So what do you think for the 2000s? Are we just going to say DL4 for that? Because that's what we've been talking
that's
about.
what we've started with. So it's either DL4 or some kind of like whatever.
I'm totally comfortable saying that the DL4
whatever kind of
ruled
grungy,
the 2000s.
semi distortion. Because when you think of distortion, it's like, well, it's not really rat, because rat pedals tend to be like have this natural mid scoop that lend themselves.
Well,
to
rat
the 80s.
I would push into an 80s
Exactly.
because then you're
And-
pushing like hair metal.
So then are you just stuck with picking DS1s because that's what Nirvana used?
Are we talking about the 90s right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're talking about distortions. No, I'm saying DS1. I'm just saying distortion in general. DS1, big muffs, turbo distortions, whatever distortion Ibanez had out at the time, stuff like that, you know? And then, of course, you've got the big, like blues revival, like Stevie Ray Vaughan thing going
That's
on
true.
in the 80s, where the Tube Screamer just became hot ticket, you know? People weren't really thinking about it that much until the 80s.
Yeah. Well, the Tube Screamer didn't exist until 1979.
Yeah.
So it's not like there was a lot.
Well, when did SRV die? Like 92 or something like that? Or 91?
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so after that, then like Tube Screamers are just legendary.
But even, I would say, I think in the 80s they were a thing.
Yeah.
But not as much of a thing as other things that were happening.
Right.
But that was still, so, I mean.
Well, like in the 80s, it's like there was a Tube Screamer.
Right.
And then
right.
coming into the 90s, it's like, let's see how many of these we can make.
Yeah. You kind of have this oscillation of like Tube Screamers and then more Tube Screamers. And it's just kind of this cycle of what people are into.
Right.
So what about the 2000s?
I'm fine saying DL4 for the 2000s. I can't think of any like drive or dirt pedal that would define the 2000s.
I definitely think that's fair. I think no matter what you listen to, you were looking for a delay.
Yeah.
And the DL4 is definitely the most broadly applicable delay that was on the market.
It also fit into like what people's rigs were like in the 2000s, you know? Like they're kind of more simple pedal boards.
Sure.
And, more like rigs that you would pack into your backpack or your gig bag and stuff like that.
It's funny because, the DL4 I think was $250.
It seemed
back
like
in the day.
such an extravagant thing to get.
Right. And so the only reason I've never owned a DL4 is because I was like, oh, that price point is so far. But
Everything's $250 now.
Like as an adult, I'm like, Like there are a few pedals on the market right now that are like in the $200 to $300 range where I'm like, could I convince my wife that like it's okay for me to do this?
You just gotta sell a couple things and then you get it.
I want to tell her what I was buying. I just be like,
Right.
hey, look, like you bought a couple pair of shoes last month, so I'm gonna buy this other thing.
Yeah. What about now?
Guys, look, my wife sells her shoes off when she's done with them. Don't give me crap about this.
What about the 20 teens? Like, could
I don't
we
know.
say like I feel like we could say that the Klon clone kind of ruled a lot of the early 2010s.
On the pedal side, but as far as music as big picture goes, music is nonsense.
Yeah, it's all over the map. Like you could use anything. There's no like big gear trend really, as far as I see it.
Well, I think guitar nerds referenced it best when one of their top 5 for 2017 was the James Valentine from Sterling. Who James Valentine is the guitar player for Maroon 5, and he's probably a great guitar player.
Right.
But Maroon 5 is a nonsense band where you go, and they even said this on their show, James Valentine is basically a studio musician.
Right.
Who happens to have his signature guitar because he's in a multi-million-dollar band.
Right. Because
the reality is that like when I listen to a Maroon 5 song,
you don't hear guitar.
I can't find the guitar.
Right.
It's
a pop song and it's super heavy produced. Like
right.
You're hearing the electronic drum and samples above.
I don't want to say it's noise because it's definitely catchy and I definitely want to hear it again.
But it's like any pop song. Like everything's pretty buried in there under the vocals as it is. You know, the beat and the vocals fill every second of it, and then everything else is background.
Right. That's beyond fair.
Right.
And I think in a big picture, if I think about the 2010s, I feel like the effect or whatever of that decade might be like something really dumb. Maybe not, dumb is a bad word. But something like the JHS Morning Glory.
I think you could make a case that in the 2010s, smaller builders and what was considered boutique builders really took off. And so I think you could take the Morning Glory and definitely use it as an example.
Right. I would say
a pedal that took off.
To say something broadly, the effect of the 2017s was the internet, or the 2010s was the internet.
Yeah.
Because every year it was something drastically different.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that you can look back to and be like, chasing. Oh, yeah.
It's like if you bought a Dimension C in 1981, you're going to use that thing the whole decade. You're riding chorus the whole decade. Right. You buy a turbo distortion in 92, you're going to use that thing the whole decade.
Oh, yeah. You're going to spend at least 8 years writing Nirvana cover songs.
And now everything is so like fad oriented, like people are just grabbing new stuff all the time. And it's not really fads. It's just like it's so easy to discover new gear and new sounds now. It's really hard to pin down what is like a piece of gear that's getting used a lot because there's just a lot to choose from and everything is getting used.
Yeah, and broadly, I feel like I've been saying broadly a lot.
I'd say that the thing about, and it sounds like we've been saying that music is chaos now and it's hard to pin down, but I'd say that the 2010s are a decade where guitarists became more mature in their playing, and it wasn't all about just let's see how much distortion I can blast into a big amp.
Okay.
And it's more about like, let's see how I can fit into the mix of this song without being another like obvious guitar part.
Right. I was getting ready to argue with you, but I can agree with that point. I think music has shifted for sure.
Yeah.
I think people are looking for that special something.
There's just not an audience for some dude who's gonna like lay down a guitar solo throughout a song and then have a louder solo.
Right.
In the back half of it. To be a guitarist in a band now, you have to be a more connected part of the whole composition. Where you're in there the whole time, but it's not necessarily, you're not on top of the mix. Mm-hmm. You're perfectly in the mix, if that makes sense. There's no big like slashes now. Or like Van Halen's now, where it's like, whoa, it's the band, but he's the guy. He's just like doodly doodly, like we got to hear like every note he plays,
yeah,
because that's the attraction.
Well, and it's just kind of like crazy
Or even going back to
sort
like
of thing.
the grungy, punky stuff in the 90s and even the early 2000s, where it's like the front of the band is a guy just fisting power chords.
Right.
You know, it's a lot less. It's a lot more subtle now. It's less obvious, and I think that's where a lot of these very specialized pedals and like boutique pedals have found a niche. And it's like someone like really trying to do more specific things and really trying to exploit a tighter pocket in the mix of their band. Where it's like, you know, in the 90s, the loudest, craziest distortion you could find, as loud as you can get it, and that's the sound of your band.
It is a weird thing to think about. Is that like last year or 2 years ago, Fender put out the Biffy Cleo stuff. Have you ever listened to Biffy Cleo?
No.
Me neither.
I don't know what that is.
And so like,
is that a person or a band?
It's a band.
Okay.
I feel like some of these brands are trying to grab onto like kind of independent or smaller bands and promote them up to being like signature artists. And for me, like, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
And that's the
Plus,
problem.
because we're adult men, Steve. We're not teenagers or 20-somethings.
Right, but I'm saying like that band is not a band that I listen to. They don't even have radio airplay.
Right.
You know, there are certain artists, like if there was a black, whatever the guy from the Black Keys was, like signature model.
Right.
Like,
Dan Auerbach?
Yeah, Dan Auerbach.
Auerbach.
Yeah. If he had a signature model, I'd be like, okay, that's cool.
But
Or,
he's
you
so
know,
into like vintage stuff. Like, is that even possible?
Right.
You know?
Or like the guy from the Arctic Monkeys, if he had something like that, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. I feel like I'm throwing up in my mouth a little. The guy from whoever the guitar player is from Imagine Dragons.
Okay.
Like if he had one, you know, like whatever, I guess we'd talk about it. But if you listen to them, like I'm sorry you have bad taste in music.
Yeah, I really don't like Imagine Dragons.
But Ryan, it's radioactive.
Oh gosh, I hate that song so
They've
much.
got a couple songs that I really like, and they've got like more than a couple songs that I really hate.
It's every song I've ever heard from them sounds like, oh, guys, let's intentionally write a song to be the end credit song for like a really terrible like teen disaster movie.
Yeah.
Like Hunger Games or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
It's like a very specific sound and that's all they do.
Yeah.
With just the worst lyrics. It's just the worst.
So there's,
It's like they might as well be recapping a movie when they're with their lyrics.
I guess when I listen, so Van Halen was like a pop culture sensation. Slash was a pop culture sensation. Like these different guys, even, you know, Kurt Cobain, technically the Jag Sting is not a Kurt Cobain signature model.
Right.
But he was a pop culture sensation. Like, I just don't see that anymore.
Well, I think you have a lot of this stuff going on with like it's not in the pop culture, but like in the gent scene and in like math rock scene.
Sure.
I think there's a lot going on there where that I don't follow, but it seems like there's all these signature models that cater to that.
But those tend to be on like brands that you expect to cater to that.
Sure.
You know, when ESP rolls out something or Ibanez rolls out, who is it that does? Is it Ibanez that has the Misha Mansour model?
I don't know.
Like that doesn't surprise me because that's what they do, and I get that. Even that dude, like Misha Mansour, is a name that I recognize from the band Animals as leaders, but like James Valentine, like I hear Maroon 5 on the radio, but I gotta look up who he is.
Right. Let's wrap this up. I'm tired of talking about it. Let's hit the last ad.
Wait,
and get out
do
of
we
here.
have no landmark pedal of the 20 teens yet?
We were talking about that. We were saying that it's too hard to pin down. I think you have to kind of look at these in retrospective too, though.
Yeah,
I
you
really
definitely do.
I really still think that like
Retrospective pedal of the 2010s.
the
Hold on, I got it. Korg Miku.
oh my gosh, no, I really think like the rise of like the clone like says a lot about our decade that we're in.
Yeah, but there's not one.
That's what I'm saying, though.
It's all of them.
It's all of them. It's the whole scene.
Okay.
It's a scene of effects. You know, like, oh, if you make effects, you make a version of this, you know? And
Right.
everyone makes versions of things, and then they have originals that are mixed in. All right, let's tackle this last ad. It's so important, and it's so good. It was sent to us by Spencer Hyam.
Yeah, it's a lot of 60 plus used recorders.
By recorders, you mean the little blowy tube flute things,
Yeah.
right? Oh,
These
man.
are all previously used, and they are in a wide variety of colors and conditions. They are not fancy and do show signs of use. Gross.
Yeah, really gross.
But still a great deal at $50 cash for the whole lot. I will say, so this is for recorders, like the little fluty crap things.
Yeah, the little blow tubes that you fill with your spit and then you throw it away at the end of elementary school.
I will say for 60 plus for $50, like I could dump this in a bucket of bleach for a week.
You think it doesn't matter how much you sterilize them, you're never going to use them all, and you're still going to have to try to flip used recorders.
They're not for you. They're
one at a time.
They're not for you. They're for your 103C or corporation.
Recorders can't be that much money. Just buy new recorders.
They're like $10 a piece.
Dude, it's worth the money to get fresh recorders. Every kid that takes, music class in elementary school, just get them a fresh recorder. Like, don't pass along spit tubes to like kids. Like, gross.
Just think,
Gross. Like, even like a trumpet, you change the mouthpiece and it's got a spit valve so you can drain it. There's no spit valve on a recorder.
You don't change the mouthpiece. You maybe drain the spit valve.
You can change the mouthpiece on a trumpet.
You could.
But it's like
but that's money.
But it's still like that's more like you're more likely to get a good sterilization on it than a plastic recorder that some kid has chewed notches into.
The chewing part is the part that really grosses me out. You could bleach, like I said, you could bleach these.
No. There's got to be some sort of school supply where you can get the cheapest plastic recorders for $1.50 each. I don't believe for a minute that this is worthwhile. It's too gross.
This is less than $1 a piece, Ryan.
I know, but it's like, at what cost? At what cost, Steve?
So what I'm hearing right now is that you would not buy that for $1.
I would not buy that for $1. Gross.
I don't know. I the thing about this ad that makes me sad is it makes me think that another middle school music department was shut down.
That's probably what happened, or like a private school or something like that. Or they said, "Hey, look at all our dirty, disgusting used recorders that are all chewed to bits. You think we should try to squeeze another year out of these? No, let's put them on Craigslist and try to make our money back on recorders." I got a recorder when I was in elementary school. They just gave it to me. They're like, "Never bring this back to us. This is yours now." And it was an okay recorder, but there's cheap ones out there.
An okay recorder?
It was okay.
Do bad recorders
It felt like it was made
exist?
out of decent plastic. It was like one of the thicker plastic ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes it fancy.
I feel like schools need to retire the recorder program. Like, I get it. I get that it's simple and it's easy to use. But I think and you don't have to tune it, but you might as well just give kids kazoos, right?
You got a few more notes.
Yeah, I guess you're fingering notes and stuff like that, but there's got to be something else that's better, like a keyboard. Like, get kids like the cheapest Casio keyboard and be like, "Here you go. You don't have to blow spit into it."
But like you said, they're probably buying these at like $3, $4,
Yeah, but
$5 a piece.
But you can fill a room with keyboards and say these just live at the school. Like, you're not taking this home.
Yes, but
What about ukuleles? You can get a ukulele on Amazon for $40.
That's true.
And
But
it's super easy to
But
learn.
and
the kids love them.
These recorders are probably like $5-10, so that's like
I still say $1.50.
20%. $1.50.
Okay, you convinced me recorders are the best musical instrument
I'm not saying they're the best musical instrument.
invented.
I'm
gonna just search around for an electric recorder so I can.
I'm just
use
saying
it
it's
with effects.
a pipe with some holes drilled in it.
Yeah,
So that makes it really cheap.
yeah. All right, let's get out of
And
here.
plus, with a recorder, you can play "On the Wings of Love."
Oh my gosh. No, you're just going to play hot cross buns over and over again.
Hot cross buns, hot cross buns. 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns.
All right. This episode was brought to you by Sinusoid Couture. Is that how we say it?
Pro
Audio Couture. They make cables.
And
Smiles.
there we go.
They're going to make you think there's a snake behind you. They're the great American cable
And then you
company.
get scared and fall into a coma.
They bring you awesome content like you experienced in this very episode today.
And also sometimes on the Gear Slum, but
Yeah, sometimes they sponsor the Gear Slum. You know, whatever. Big deal. Do we have a song, Steve?
yeah, this week's song was kind of sent to us by Brendan Williams.
Hopefully he sends it.
He says, "Hey guys, long-time listener, and I'd love to submit a song for the end of the podcast. Do you prefer it as a streamable link or downloadable? Any other requirements?"
Yeah, we
Thanks.
got to be able to download it.
So I don't know if this is my fault or your fault, but nobody replied to him until tonight.
Well, hopefully we get the song for this episode.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan.
If not, I'll play something else.
It's all our fault.
And with that, later, guys.
Bye.